What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Bull Season 2, Episodes 2 through 5. Got a lot to get through, so let's hop right into it. Starting off with Episode 2, Already Gone. And a pretty good episode overall. I mean, just very interesting setup. You've got this guy who's with his girlfriend, takes her out of the oncology unit, and they go and they have a night to remember, and then ultimately she ends it by saying she doesn't want to have this surgery that they're saying she needs because it'll change who she is. She doesn't want that, and so she takes out a drug planning to kill herself. And of course the guy's like, no, 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 hang on, don't do this, but she just sticks it in. The only problem I would have with this is if I'm that guy in the room, I know what she's doing as soon as she pulls out that needle, and I would do everything in my power to stop her. I would not just sit there and be like, no, 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 don't do this. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're thinking. No, obviously later on they do talk about how he didn't want to see her suffer either, but at the same time, I don't want to see her kill herself. That's not something I want to experience. I don't want to see her die in front of me. So that part of it was a little bit strange, but the rest of the episode was really good. Yeah, I kind of knew I was in for pain watching this one. I mean, it was always bound to be sad, and sure enough, it was. But they had a very good setup. Bull takes on the case, even though he doesn't really want to, mainly because this isn't the type of case he normally tries to take on. Just some kid who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, but ultimately he realizes that this kid needs his help, or else he's gonna be dead in the water. So yeah, all of this, they go through this case. They find out that apparently the girl's dad knew about her desire to kill herself, and when she stole the drug, he knew that she had stolen the drug but didn't say anything about it. And so he pretty much was on her side, thinking, and just she wants to die. I don't blame her. So I don't know. It was kind of a touchy subject as far as suicide is concerned, but they handled it pretty well. They talked about both sides of it. Benny, who is the Catholic in the group, didn't want anything to do with it, but they had a nice little scene where Bull's pretty much just like, look, I'm not telling you to change your beliefs. I just want you to do your job. You don't have to agree with her. And ultimately that comes into how they close out the case. You don't have to agree with what she did, but you don't have to convict this kid because of what she chose. That was her decision alone. So yeah, it was a very good case. The only bad part about this episode is for some reason they start focusing on Danny and her boyfriend Harrison. So they start off the episode with her. Cable calls her saying that she needs some information about the drug that the girl used, and so she calls him. He doesn't answer, and she's like, "Hey, I won't be able to make it over tonight. I've got something that came up." And then a little bit later in the episode, we see her call him again. Goes to voicemail, and she's like, "Hey, like I said, I won't be able to make it. I got work, but let's schedule something for another day." And then the episode ends with her going into his apartment and knocking on the door. Nobody answers. She's like, "Hey, FBI, I'm coming in." And no answer. So she grabs the key off the top, unlocks the door, opens it up, sets stuff down. "Hey, I'm here." She's like, "What? You're just not going to answer?" And so I'm like, what happened? Is he dead? Did he commit suicide? Did he leave her? What's going on? And he just walks out of the bedroom. He's got a fake leg on, but yeah, it led to nothing. He walks out of the bedroom and turns on some music, and they start dancing. I'm like, what was all this for? What did this lead to? Why did you build up the suspense like something bad happened to him, only for us to see, oh, nothing bad happened to him. He's got a fake leg, but that had nothing to do with why he wasn't answering her. Oh, my fake leg also made me a mute. No, that's not the case. You're being an asshole. So, I don't know. It was such a weird scene. A weird part of the episode. It's the only one that stuck out to me as just like, that was really weird and didn't connect to anything and nothing came of it. So why did you even have it? If you took that out of the episode, nothing would change. You get into the third episode, A Business of Favors, and this one pretty interesting as well. We see these kids are being hazed. They're in fraternity, and so they take all these kids out to the dock. They get them plastered and then push them into the lake and say, "All right, swim to the other side and back." And then the next morning, some little kid is coming out to fish, and he sees a dead body of one of the kids. And so ultimately, the mother wants answers. The DA wants to try to convict somebody because he wants to help the mother. And so the judge, or one of the judges, who is apparently this DA's mom, asks Bull for help. And so Bull goes to him, and there's a little bit of friction there throughout the episode because we see, two big personalities clashing. Bull wants to help this guy, but this guy doesn't like Bull and is very arrogant, so he feels like he doesn't really need help, and it's really his mom who wants him to get help. But it was a pretty interesting episode because all of these 15 guys that were part of the fraternity weren't saying anything. They had all agreed together to lie about it to everybody, even the attorney that they all took. So it was kind of an interesting and a little bit different case because there are 15 defendants with one attorney, and they're all lying to everybody about it. And ultimately, Bull thought, all right, so we'll just pressure them, we'll accuse them and convict them, and one of them will step up and say, hey, this is what really happened. But nobody does. So they take him to court, and he's thinking, all right, so let's isolate one of them, get them away from everybody, say, hey, you've got immunity, and then maybe he'll realize that he's alone and he'll crack. But he doesn't. He continues to lie. And so it's just kind of interesting to see the power of teamwork and the power of, like, all these guys coming together to lie to everybody about this. So much so that Bull was actually wrong, and he, in his thoughts of, oh yeah, eventually somebody will crack under the pressure. Nobody did because that's how strong their bond was. And it's kind of an interesting concept, especially considering they're kind of the antagonist in this episode. We get to see that a powerful bond, even in the antagonist side, can lead to a very difficult case. So, yeah, I really like this episode overall. The emotional payoff at the end where the guy finally admits to everything and apologizes for everything. And, we see him, he's getting all torn up inside, and the mom is sitting there listening, and she's getting all teary-eyed, and I'm sitting here, I'm getting all teary-eyed. Yeah, it was a pretty emotional payoff at the end. So, overall, a very good episode. But pretty much kind of what you'd expect. He died because of all the alcohol stuff. They kind of said, maybe he's just back at the place, but none of them really wanted to check, and nobody really wanted to say anything because they were all scared and drunk. So, yeah, don't drink, kids. It's pretty much the moral. But that's the end of that one, and then we get to the fourth episode, which is The Illusion of Control. This one definitely stood out to me a little bit more as, I guess, frustrating overall. First of all, the concept of it alone is kind of frustrating. I do understand the point of it, but at the same time, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, okay, you come to me for advice, I give you advice, and then something bad happens because of that advice, and you're going to sue me because of some advice that I gave you? Like, how is that even possible? I realize she's a celebrity, and so through media and stuff, she can totally swing the case her way. But come on. That is a stupid reason to sue anybody. Because you said something to me, I'm going to sue you because of that. Is that allowed? Is that even legal? Like, can you sue somebody over advice? It's really kind of stupid when you think about it. So yeah, just the concept of this case alone already kind of had me like, this is really dumb. Ultimately, it does lead to a pretty decent emotional payoff at the end. Seeing this celebrity get her kid back, seeing her kind of realize the father's predicament and how he's feeling right now. And so instead of, just like pushing the father aside and be like, oh yeah, let's have him accept his consequences, Bull manages to convince her to have sort of a media events showing the difficulty of orphanages overseas and the adoption agencies and all that. So it was kind of a nice little moment, but there's still something that bothers me about this episode overall. First of all, they bring in a new lawyer. It's the guy, I'm pretty sure, that played Raymond's brother. Hang on, I got his name right there. Brad Garrett. Yeah, that is him, right? That is him. Yeah, so the guy that plays Raymond's brother, and everybody loves Raymond, he was the lawyer in this case. Very good lawyer, and I thought they handled his character very well because he comes in, Bull is all like, all right, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to stick it to her because he's pissed that this woman's even suggesting suing him over something so stupid. Completely justifiable reaction, but at the same time, she's trying to paint Bull as like this egotistical maniac who is, just completely high on himself and gave her this advice without considering the consequences. And so Bull is pretty much reacting just like how this woman is painting him. And so Brad Garrett's character is like, hang on, let me handle this. Let me handle your defense because you're too close to this. You're too emotionally involved. And they handled that part very well, and I really did like that. And so when they come to a part in the case where, Marissa is saying, I want this juror, and Bull is like, no, I don't want her for differing reasons. It does kind of show some of the conflict, but ultimately, what was his name? Ron Getman. Getman is like, I'm going to go with her because you're too emotionally involved. And so that sort of builds up some of this tension building in the team. And this is already sort of built over a little bit from the last episode where we saw Marissa was kind of not really involved in the case. She was a little bit distracted by this guy she's talking to, and it's kind of like, what's going on? And the episode ended, the third episode, with her just not being in the at TAC at all. Bull comes back and it's completely empty. She's not there, nobody's there. And so they've already kind of built up this maybe a little bit of tension in the team. This starts building it even more because Bull wants one thing, she wants something else, but he's too close, so he doesn't realize that she's working in his best interest. Getman as the lawyer is saying, no, I'm going to trust her because her reasoning is probably more sound than yours right now. And so all this tension is building. We see Marissa gets called in, she's subpoenaed, and so now she's on the witness stand. And we find out that she sent an email to Bull the night that he talked to the celebrity. I think her name was Amaya, maybe. But we see she sent an email telling him a little bit about the Ethiopian laws and how there's kind of a loophole or something that might benefit the father. And then she also puts at the end that adoptive parents or birth parents aren't very reliable. And so automatically everybody's kind of swinging towards, the celebrity's side now. The prosecution is like, ooh, well, now that he got that email, now I kind of suspect that. And so Getman gets Bull and Cologne into the bathroom to sort of discuss what's going on. What are we supposed to do now? And so he asks Bull, where's her opinion come from? Is it professional? Is that why she's saying that about the birth parents? And Bull tells him, it's personal. And he's like, well, what is it? And he's trying not to tell him because he doesn't want to break the trust that Marissa entrusted him with. But ultimately, Benny's like, look, he's trying to save the company. You've got to do this. And so he tells him about Marissa's past, about how she was put into foster care. She was adopted, and then her birth mother came back, and the birth mother won custody, but the birth mother was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and so it wasn't good. And so she's speaking from her personal life. And so Getman's like, there you go. That's our home run right there. She said that out of her own personal experience, not out of professional. We've won the case. But Bull's like, no, I'm not letting you use it. And so we finally get into the trial, and Getman pretty much says, I'm going to use it. I don't need your permission. So he starts accusing her, was this professional? And she's like, no, it wasn't. And he's like, well, weren't you speaking from your own past? And starts calling up her past, and she's like starting to bawl on the stand. And so Bull is like standing up saying, hey, objection, I object to you. And the judge is just like, look, any further objections and you're in contempt. You're the defendant today. You're not involved at all. And so he stands up again, and she's like, all right, you're in contempt, you're out. And you see Marissa's just like completely heartbroken. Getman's pissed off because his client just got sent out of court in contempt. And Benny's just like, what just happened? Ultimately, what does this lead to? Nothing. All of this emotional stuff, all of this stuff that's been building up. We see Marissa completely ditches out of attack in the last episode. She's not there. Normally she's there for Bull at the end of the episode. We see, kind of a little bit of a camaraderie at the end. She's not there because she's hanging out with this guy. We see there's a little bit of controversy going on between the two of them because they have differing opinions. And then Bull gives her personal story to this lawyer, which he promised he wouldn't. That was told to him under a trust. And then when it all gets revealed, the only thing that happens after this is Benny, when he comes to get Bull out of prison, pays for his bail for being in contempt of court. He's just like, oh yeah, Marissa's fine. And that's all we get. There's nothing else. There's no talking about it. There's no like apology from Bull saying, "Look, I'm sorry. It was the only way to save the company. We had to bring that up so they know it's not your person or it's not your professional opinion." But there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing, and it's a waste. It is such a waste of a good opportunity to really develop these characters some more. And the problem I have with this is you have time to do it. You could have taken out some of the little stuff. The whole thing with a celebrity, yeah, it's great to see her stand up for her father and her kid, but you don't really need to. With the whole thing with Danny traveling to Ethiopia and getting all this information, there are certain things that you could cut down a little bit. You could explain certain things through a phone call instead of having to show a scene. The scene where she sees Alexander and his father, that scene lasts like probably 30 seconds. You could have cut it down 15 more seconds, and now you've got a bit more time to spend with Bull and Marissa. But no, they don't even address that at all. They don't address what that means to both of them. It's just pushed off to the side for some other things, and that really frustrated me. So yeah, this episode was not the best out of the 4 that I saw. It was definitely the worst. And a lot of it just comes down to, 1, the idea for the case alone is dumb. And then 2, they did not take advantage of what was a really good chance to develop some characters. They pushed it all off to the side, and that's kind of frustrating. So then we get into the 5th and final episode of this set. Episode 5, Play the Hand You're Dealt. Pretty interesting case overall, just because it's a little bit different how it's all set up. It's on Indian tribal grounds, which means they're doing it in their own court. It's a little bit different than how usual court goes, and so they're dealing with some of the technicalities and stuff of that. Like Benny thought he was going to be the lawyer, and all of a sudden they're giving this young kid. It's just like, well, this is what the chief said. She appointed me as the lawyer, and so they're having to deal with some of this stuff. Bull is dealing with a college friend that he was roommates with, who apparently gets himself into a lot of trouble. Most of the people in the tribe hate him because he's a drunk and disorderly. He's constantly being loud and obnoxious, and so he doesn't get along with other people. But ultimately, it's pretty much what you'd expect. The owner of a casino is killed. He's the one suspected. He's framed because he got there. He was told to be there because he was going to make up with the guy, and then sees that he's dead. Tries to check and see if what's going on. Calls the police, they show up, and then they arrest him because, oh, well, he's the unlikable guy, so of course he did it. But ultimately, they find out he didn't do it. I did like how the guy who actually did do it made sure he got put on the jury, because that's a little bit different. That's something we've never really tackled before. What if the actual culprit is on the jury? That would be interesting. But ultimately, this is done in such a way where the jury is kind of handpicked by the chief. It would be much more interesting if just by some chance, like, the guy who committed the crime ends up getting jury duty that day for the crime he committed. That would be very, very interesting. I wonder if they're going to do that later. But anyway, so we see, they managed to find the weapon that killed him at the guy on the jury, the actual killer. They find the weapon on his property where he apparently chops up cars that he's been stealing. And so, it's kind of a typical, okay, he didn't do it. There's a little bit of development between Bull and this friend of his, I think Mac was his name, but he decides he's going to move elsewhere and kind of start over where people don't really know him and get a new lease on life, I suppose. I'm wondering if he's going to come back at all, if he's going to be possibly a recurring character, because that would be pretty interesting, to see a new character sort of pop into the show every now and then. See if he actually does manage to turn over a new leaf at wherever he's going now. So, yeah, it wasn't the most interesting case out of the 4. I definitely think the first 2, episodes 2 and 3, were really interesting. They had a very good premise. Yes, they had a couple moments that were hit or miss, but overall they were enjoyable. The 3rd case definitely had some issues, but this last one was pretty good as well. So, 3 out of 4 definitely ain't bad. So far, it started off this new season pretty well. I would like to see a little bit more development on these characters. Like I said, these characters are interesting. I do enjoy these characters, but you've got to develop them in interesting ways. You can't just have random things thrown in, like in the 2nd episode where Danny calling her boyfriend, he's not answering his door, and then all of a sudden he just shows up and turns on music and they start dancing. What is that about? It's got to be something that really develops these characters, helps them grow, and that's what life is. We grow as humans. We become different people based on our experiences. I said this about the NCIS review. I want to see characters grow. I don't want to see them remain stagnant. And so that's going to be my biggest concern going through this season is, are these characters going to grow at all, or are they going to remain the same? Is Bull going to be his usual cocky self to this entire season, or are there going to be a couple cases that maybe help him see that he is flawed? He does have his own flaws. I don't know. But I am looking forward to this season so far. It started off well. It's just a matter of, can they keep this going? Or is it just going to sort of become another, that was enjoyable, but not really a memorable show? So that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Bull reviews. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.